Pule. Or if she is having technical difficulties, I will offer the Pule for this evening.
She has to unmute herself.
Oh.
Ulu, if you can hear, we can't hear unmute.
I'll just give the Pule tonight then.
Okay.
Ipuli kako. Oha kula, please bless those here tonight with aloha, open minds and hearts as we begin the journey to plot the course of the Hawaiian Homelands Trust over the next 20 years. We ask humbly for your wisdom and guidance in our work this evening. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Aloha, everyone. My name is Andrew Choi. I'm the Acting Planning Program Manager at the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. So the Department of Hawaiian Homelands is developing an update for its 2002 General Plan. This update will establish a vision and policies that guide statewide land management and DHHL programs for the next 20 years. As part of the planning framework, the General Plan update provides a comprehensive policy that hopefully will ensure coordinated, integrated, and orderly social, physical, and economic development of Hawaiian homelands through the establishment of goals, objectives, and implementing actions. With us tonight, we have our consultants from SSFM who have been helping us, assisting us with the update of our general plan. So with that, I'd like to pass it over to Jared Chang, the lead principal at SSFM.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Aloha kako, everybody, and welcome. My name is Jared Chang. I'll be facilitating tonight's meeting. And this is the first beneficiary consultation meeting being held for the Department of Hawaiian Homelands General Plan Update. So welcome. If you can see in the first slide, we had a note that this meeting was being recorded. So I just wanted to put that out there. And I'll cover the reason why a little later. Okay, let's go to the agenda. All right, let's see. Tonight's agenda, we're gonna start with some meeting kuleana for all of us and some announcements. We'll have a quick poll for all of you to respond to so we know who's participating in this meeting. Then we're gonna get into the presentations. We're gonna cover an overview of the project and the process. We're gonna go into the vision statement discussion and what that means. We're also gonna cover where we've been from the past 2002 general plan and our goals going forward. And then finally, we're gonna wrap up and give you the next steps for this process. We have a full agenda tonight, so we're looking forward to you guys' interaction all the way through the meeting. At this time, if you guys still have your mics not muted, I'd like to ask everybody to try and mute your mics. And I'll describe how to unmute it later in the kuleana. Okay, next slide. So you heard from Andrew, he's the Acting Planning Program Manager. We also have Julianne Cachola, she's the planner on this project. They are the DHHL Planning Office team that we're working with. From SSFM, I'm Jared Chang. We also have Melissa May, who's our project manager and a senior planner. And we have two other planners working with us on this project from SSFM, Molokai Krishok and Matthew Fernandez, both are on. And at this time, I saw Commissioner Dennis Neves on the call, so I just wanted to acknowledge him for being on the call. Also saw Kuali'i Kamara, a land manager for Humu'ula in Hawaii Island, also from DHHL. And if there are others from DHHL, sorry if I missed you, but there might be a few participating in the meeting. Not part of the team, but part of the beneficiaries. Okay, next slide. Here's our meeting Kuleana. This basically applies to all of us tonight. We want everyone to be respectful of the person talking and not to interrupt. Please mute yourself when you're not speaking. Raise your hand and wait for the facilitator to call on you, or type your question into the chat box. And I'll cover this a little bit more later. When addressing other participants verbally or in the chat box, we ask that everybody be respectful, show aloha, treat others the way you want to be treated. We have to be able to agree to disagree at times and accept that others may have different perspectives and opinions. And for everyone, let's have an open mind. And our goal is to allow everyone to take home some new ideas or new information tonight. Next slide. Okay, here's a quick description of the goals for our first round of beneficiary meetings. Now, this is the very first meeting in this round. There's going to be 3 identical meetings. The next 2 are on March 8 and March 9. We're covering the same materials. We just want to give as much opportunity for people to participate in this round as possible. Goals for this first round are to introduce the project and the project team to everyone. We want to gather your input on the vision statement and the general plan process. And finally, report to you on the progress of the current general plan and discuss the goals going forward. So I may have covered that already. Also mentioned, we are recording the meeting, and the reason we're doing that is because we're going to be rebroadcasting this meeting, all of our meetings, on each island's public access TV station. And we also want to remind everybody or encourage everybody to sign up in our email list on our website, so you can get any announcements. We'll cover that a little later too, how you do that. So next. So your input is what we're here for. And there's going to be several ways for everyone to give us input in this meeting. First is through the Zoom platform. So we have a team here monitoring the chat box and any raised hand functions. If you look on this slide, it shows you how to raise your hand or get to the chat. What's going to happen is when we see a raised hand or a question in the chat box, you have to wait for me to call on you if you want to speak and unmute yourself. Or if you put a question in the chat box, I'll read it out loud. Or if you want to just speak, you can type speak into the chat and I'll call on you. But please wait for me to call on you. And the only other thing I ask is we have about 50 guys, 64 guys, I think, here tonight. So by all means, try not to have sidebar conversations in the chat. That makes it a little crazy and hard to follow sometimes when we want to call on people. So try to limit that, any discussions in the chat with other participants. Okay, next one. All right, like I mentioned earlier, for some of you guys that were on around 6:25, we're using an app called Mentimeter. Now you can access this either by going to menti.com. So if you have your web browser open too, or you can go, if you have your phone and you actually have the Mentimeter app, you can use the app. So I'd like to ask everyone at your computers now to try and open up your web browser, go to menti.com or the app and enter this code 929151. You're going to get to our polling questions that we're going to be asking throughout the meeting. And once you sign into the app, you can leave it open and we'll walk you through the questions as they come up. So I'm going to give everyone, I guess, a few seconds right now to try and get that app going, because we're going to start with a few questions in the app.
Yes, 92 what? I don't really catch it.
929151 is the code. 929151. So I can see a bunch of face. Yeah, go ahead. Smartphone. Where do we input? Browser. The browser is just your web browser. So, you know, it could be like Chrome or Internet Explorer or something like that.
That's the one. 929151.
929151.
929151. That's correct. Okay, I can see a bunch of faces on the cameras. If you guys are on Menti, could you give me a little nod maybe?
Flying homes thing.
Anybody? All right.
Sheesh, I
Are
gotta
you
hang
in
up.
there?
No.
I thought you did. You said you did. No, you can hear us.
Let's see. Okay, so we have the first question up. And for those of you guys that have logged into the Mentimeter app or website, you can go ahead and answer that question. Looks like we got 20 responses for who's in the room. Oh, I should also add that any personal information like your name or email that we asked for at any time throughout this process, it will be kept confidential. All right, looks like that first question, who's in the room, is just for us, our information. We're not sharing the results for that one. And the second question, could you please indicate where you
on this or
are?
what?
Somebody is not muted and I can hear your conversation. So here's reminding everybody to please mute yourself. Where you are, whether you are, okay, so looks like we got about 23 people, 24, 25 responses. This will help us understand the, I guess, type of beneficiaries in the meeting. Got about 7 existing lessees, 15 on the wait list, 3 others, 1 undivided interest has not been converted. We have 26 people that have responded, and we have 72 people, give or take, in the meeting. So I'm just gonna give this one, looks like you guys are able to go through the first 3 questions already. So, all right, getting maybe about half the guys. This one is just a word cloud showing where everybody's calling in from. Pretty cool. Kauai, Maui, Oahu, Waiheke Nui, right on. Big Island, Kona. All right, looks like we got a pretty broad location-based participants here. Okay, that is the first 3 questions. Now we're gonna move into the first presentation, and I'm gonna turn it over to our project manager, Melissa May, to walk us through.
To everyone.
Okay, thanks, Jared, and aloha, everyone. Nice to see such a big turnout tonight. I just wanted to start by giving you all an overview of the process. Let's see, Molokai, I'm not seeing your screen. There we go. Okay. So as Jared mentioned, I'm Melissa May. I'm the project manager for this project for SSFM, helping out DHHL, and I'm a senior planner, and I'm based in Honolulu, but I've worked in beneficiary communities on Kauai most recently, and I'm really looking forward to working with you all throughout this process. So let's get started. Molokai, next slide, please. So what is the general plan and how is it used? I'm not sure how familiar you folks are all with the general plan. So just from a high level view, the general plan, as you can see here, is kind of the overarching guiding document for all of DHHL's planning efforts. So that includes its strategic plans, the island plans, as well as the regional and development plans. And really it's supposed to set the high level priorities and policy for all of the funding, legislation, and land use decisions by the department. And so you can see how important it is and what an important opportunity it is to be able to weigh in on this plan right now. So I'm really glad that you're all here to do that. The evaluation program at the bottom is something that we're trying to build into this process so that we have a way of assessing how we're doing on the plan implementation. Go ahead to the next slide, please. So there's been one general plan prepared before, and that was done in 2002. And it was really the first comprehensive effort by DHHL to have a way to organize its policies under one document. And it had 7 policy areas, and they're listed here. So it included things like land use planning, different kinds of uses like residential, agricultural, and pastoral. It addressed water, land and resource management, economic development, and community building. And there's a link to this on the project online open house, and maybe one of my team members can post that in the chat. But if you want to see this document, you can pull it up there, and you'll see that it's really short. It's only 6 pages long. And based on what we've heard from talking to people in the department, it hasn't been very widely used to date. And maybe that's just because it's so broad. But one of the things we're hoping to do with this update is to make it more used and more useful. Next slide, please. So what we're hoping to achieve with the update is to set a vision and policies to guide the Hawaiian Homelands Trust in all DHHL programs, policies, and plans for the next 20 years. And there are some minimum requirements that were set forward in Hawaii administrative rules, which I'll go over shortly. But we really want this to be an innovative and pragmatic plan that will be useful to the staff, the commissioners, beneficiaries, and decision makers. And we want to identify measures of success so that we can keep track of progress toward the vision and goals. And we want everyone to understand what those metrics are so we know what we're working toward and all moving in the same direction. Next slide. So as I mentioned, the Hawaii administrative rules came into play. They adopted minimum requirements for the general plan, and these were adopted in 2018. And there's 8 requirements, and you can kind of group them into 4 categories. The first 2 are requiring DHHL to establish one system of land use designations that's used by all the island plans. And then they also need to establish relationship between those land uses and the types of land dispositions, or how land is provided to the beneficiaries. The next 4 address criteria. So coming up with criteria for lands that are used for homesteading, lands not required for homesteading within the planning period, lands for revenue generation, and lands for community use. And they also want to address policies about how the community can manage lands for community building. Number 7 is to address standards for infrastructure and community facilities, or to come up with a way to establish those standards. And number 8 is to specify indicators to measure progress, like I've mentioned. Okay, next slide. So project tasks, and I should mention that this presentation is also online on the open house. So I know this is a lot of content. So if you're not able to absorb it all, you can come check back and look at it anytime. And it also has a voiceover. So you'll be able to hear the presentation and see it as well, and download the slides. But this is a quick overview of the different tasks that we have ahead of us in updating this plan. So the first one is to really look at the policy issues and objectives of the plan. So as part of that, we've been researching what's been happening over the last 20 years since the 2002 plan was adopted. We've been looking at progress since then, what's happened, what hasn't happened, and researching new and emerging issues. So as part of that, we've done background research. We've interviewed current and former staff, as well as former chair people. And now we're here to talk with you folks about vision statement. And we're also going to start soon on preparing white papers on some of the new emerging policy topics and Hawaii administrative rules criteria. And then the second piece is stakeholder engagement, and that's really going to be happening throughout the process. We're going to be communicating and collaborating with beneficiaries as we develop the plan update. And so we've developed a fact sheet and a website and an online open house as part of that. And then this is the first of our 2 rounds of 6 virtual meetings statewide, and each of the rounds is going to include 6 virtual meetings. So you're at meeting number 1, so you guys are ahead of the curve. And then online open houses. So as I mentioned, there's going to be an online open house to go with each round of beneficiary engagement, and the first one launches today. We also established an investigative committee, which is really just a fancy name for a group of DHHL staff and commissioners who are helping advise us on this update, making sure that we're reaching the beneficiaries, and also just helping us frame the plan so that when we take it out, it's something that beneficiaries can see themselves in. Hawaiian Homes Commission presentations is something that we'll be doing along the way also. And then how do we get to the final plan? So we're trying to go for a concise, user-friendly, visually appealing document. And we want to really to show the shared vision and policies for the trust. So in order to do that, we'll do an outline. There'll be a draft that beneficiaries can review. And then the final plan will go to the Hawaiian Homes Commission for adoption. Next slide, please. So this is an overview of the schedule. You can see it's a 2-year process, and we started with our early research and interviews back in July of last year. And now we're moving into our beneficiary consultation round 1. Our round 2 is expected near the end of this year when the public review draft of the comes out for beneficiary review. And then we're hoping that we can incorporate everybody's input and get to a final plan sometime around the middle of next year. And of course, this is all subject to change, but this is the schedule that we've laid out. And we're glad you're here today. Okay, next slide. So your participation is really critical to this process. We want to make sure that it meets the needs and reflects the values of the beneficiary communities, not just now, but into the future. So the ways that you can participate and provide your mana'o include these virtual meetings for beneficiaries, which are 2 rounds of 6, the online open houses that I mentioned, the commenting on the public review draft, which hopefully will come out by the end of this year, testimony through Hawaiian Homes Commission meetings, and of course, here's the website. So maybe somebody can post that in the chat as well. Maybe Matt, could you post the online open house and the website in the chat? That would be great. Next slide, please. So I keep talking about this online open house, but I promise it's really cool. It has a lot of ways to interact and to show, basically to go through the materials that we're presenting today, and you can have more time to go through them in more detail, and you can leave your comments on them, and you can give thumbs up on the things you like and thumbs down on the things you don't like. And I believe later in this presentation, we're going to show an example of that. So just a note that if you visit the open house, we recommend that you register. There's a button to do that. Because that will help us identify you as a beneficiary and make sure that the comments we're getting are beneficiaries. And it will also prevent you from having to enter your name and email every time you make a comment, because there's a lot of things to comment on. So we recommend you do that just for your own convenience. Next slide, please. Okay, so that's my portion, and I'd like to hand it back to Jared.
Okay, thanks,
Thank you.
Melissa. One announcement. So we're using the Mentimeter app to get polling results, and you can actually scroll. I think you can go through all the questions and look at them and answer them already. But right now we're on the vision questions. So I'm gonna present the vision portion, and then we're gonna walk through the vision questions. So if you're gonna go back, or if you already went too far, so just that. And I'm gonna ask Matt. Matt, we had a couple of new guys come in during Melissa's talk. So can you please post the menti.com link and the code to use to get into the chat for everyone, all the new guys that may have come in. Okay. So I'm gonna present this section on the vision statement. Where are we going? Vision for the future. The purpose of this presentation is basically, why are we creating a vision statement for the general plan? And I'm going to describe the types of input that we want from you. Sorry, hold on. Somebody talk. Okay, somebody muting. Okay. I'm going to describe the types of input we want from you on the vision statement process going forward. Okay. Next slide. So the Department of Hawaiian Homeland's general plan is a statewide vision-based document, and it starts with a vision statement. So this is now the beneficiary's opportunity to provide input that will set the major direction for the department over the next 20 years. The vision statement is intended to provide a unified direction for actions by the homesteads, the department, and the commission. It is not a statement of how problems will be solved, but rather it's a shared description of an outcome or destination so that everybody is heading in the same direction or paddling in the same direction. So in this graphic on this slide, we're showing you alongside the department in a sailing canoe headed towards a single destination. That destination is what we're calling the shared vision for 2040. And on the canoe, He Kuleana Kokako is written on the side, basically to signify that we all have a responsibility in this journey and in creating this vision. This means setting the vision involves everyone who has a stake in it and everyone agreeing to work together to achieve it. So there are lots of ways to get from point A to B, but the key in this exercise is to identify and define what point B is, our destination. Okay, next slide. So as we start to think about vision together, here are two questions that you can use to help guide your thinking and for us too. The first is to imagine what success would look like in 20 years or the year 2040 if the vision is achieved. And second is to ask yourself, what values or principles would we need to follow that would lead us towards achieving that vision? So keep these questions in mind as we go forward in this section. Next slide. Oh, here we go. Okay. So the first general plan completed in 2002, it established a mission statement for the department. And it reads, our mission is to manage the Hawaiian Homelands Trust effectively and to develop and deliver lands to Native Hawaiians. We will partner with others towards developing self-sufficient and healthy communities. Now, as the department's mission statement, it's basically a summary of what the department must do and how to do it. The 2002 general plan did not include a vision statement. So now we're all faced with the opportunity to define it for the future of the department. But the difference between the mission statement and the vision statement is that our vision statement will describe the future destination of where we want to be in 2040. And in its description, we will define what success looks like. Next slide. All of these slides I'm presenting up until the part where we get to the Menti questions and discussion are basically set up. So I'm trying to get everybody thinking in the right mind frame for how to think about vision, you know. Okay, so how to describe success. Here are some examples of recent vision statements that the department has made in some recent regional plans. So the Molokai regional plan vision statement on the top, it captures the desired end state for the beneficiaries on Molokai. It describes the beneficiaries' vision of successful homestead community and provides a unified destination for the homestead, the department, and the commission that guides the actions on Molokai. So the principles or values that they used to develop this vision statement included unification under a foundation of Hawaiian values and cultural traditions. 2, thriving on the land means having access to water. 3, maintaining a sense of aloha and ohana on the island. And 4, learning kuleana for the aina passed down from kupuna. So those were the principles or values that the Molokai regional plan used. Go back one slide. Yeah. So the Kealakehe La'i Opua vision statement reflects what that community sees for the future of their homestead in the decades to come. And their vision statement was based on guiding principles that included Hawaiian community, sense of aloha, strength of its people, self-sufficiency, pride in their place, and need for more homes. So a little bit different, but basically identifying what the future vision of their communities are. So just giving you guys more examples of what this looks like. Okay, next slide. My last setup slide to get the mindset. Here's another way of looking at where the vision statement fits in with the general plan. And this, what I'm showing you right now is we refer to as the theory of change thinking. So if we start with the left side and ask ourselves, if The department fulfills its mission to manage the Hawaiian Homelands Trust effectively and to develop and deliver lands aimed towards developing self-sufficient and healthy communities. Then beneficiaries will be empowered to achieve a shared vision guided by the right principles and values. There it is. So if the department does its mission, then beneficiaries will be empowered to achieve the vision. And then together, the outcome would lead to success in achieving what was envisioned together. And that part of it, this equation, is what will become our vision statement, the destination. What will communities look like in 2040 looking back? Okay, that's the mindset. All right, now I think that was my last slide. We're going to go to the Mentimeter now. Molokai is going to switch over to the Mentimeter questions, and then we're going to spend a little bit of time getting you guys input on what I had just presented for the vision. So what we're trying to collect on vision from you guys, basically what outcomes do you want to see in the future, and what principles? So that's the thinking. Okay, let's see. Is everyone, I guess I'm looking at the chat now. Oh, looks like we got a lot of comments right now. In 20 years, beneficiaries will be, I'm just going to try and read some of these. Off the wait list, smarter, revenue generation, places to gather, funding, full funding, resilient to community impacts. These are great. These are great. Beneficiaries will be dying off. I'm 67. Still on the wait list. At this point, time to become impatient and make homes available. So getting people on the land in homes. Oh, these are great. These are great. Looks like we got 37 responses to this. There's about 80 or so people in this meeting. So keep them coming. That's about half, I guess. All right, why don't we try the next one? Got about 25 responses here. Oh, let me move this. In 20 years, we envision homestead communities that are self-sufficient, self-sustainable, close, safe, energy efficient, actively involved, engaged, supportive, and working together to maintain healthy, self-sufficient, empowered families, affordable homes, peaceful, well-planned, self-sufficient again, family-oriented. Don't understand the question. For this one, the question is kind of like Mad Libs. You fill in the blank at the end. So in 20 years, homestead communities will be envisioned to be blank, kind of thing. Speaking the native language. 33 responses. These, I gotta say, these are great. These are great. In Kapolei. Okay. How about the next one? In 20 years, the relationship between DHHL and beneficiaries will be better. Run by beneficiaries, unknown, transparent, and aloha-based, truthful and honest. I'm just reading some of these off. Great. I want to see the percentage rate be changed to at least 25% native Hawaiian. Hopefully better than it is today. Communication between neighbors, greatly improved and trusted. Built on trust and actions. I think for the most part, you guys You guys get it. What we shooting for here in crafting the vision statement. Okay, let's see. All right, okay. So got about 27 comments on this. You know, I said there's 80 of you guys. We're gonna go into the discussion part of the meeting now. So now the first part of the meeting where we want to hear from you about any of these things, any of the vision things that we had talked about. Let's see, this might be challenging with 80 people, but let's see, does anybody have a question or something on their mind they want to bring up regarding vision? I don't see any hands. Anybody from the chat? Let's see. For our team, did you guys capture any questions come into the chat that we should read off?
Yes, there's definitely some, frustration from people that have been on the wait list and, wanting to see action now and wondering how this plan can address those kinds of concerns.
Okay.
Not to punt that off to you, Jared, but that just relaying the message because it's definitely a top of mind for a lot of beneficiaries, and we understand that. So.
Yep.
And so, Jared, I think that the best thing to start with the very, very first line of the vision would be to advocate to put our beneficiaries on the land. I mean, that's the, advocate for our beneficiaries to be put on the land. And I think that's a good statement that we can say that I think many beneficiaries want. And so if that very first line is the only thing people will read, at least that's the vision.
Thank you.
There's another question about how this plan can change the policies and rules of implementation for awarding lands. And I think that's a good question. And, this plan has to accomplish a lot more than the previous plan did. As you saw in the Hawaii Administrative Rules criteria, it has to address the connection between land use designations and land and how the lands are awarded. And so it also has to set criteria for how lands are used. So it's going to have a lot more structure and a lot more guidance than the previous plan. And we're hoping that it will be really detailed enough to be useful by the department as it makes those decisions.
Okay, I think I see that question. I see another question. I'm wondering if it's part of the general plan to build upwards. Individual homes can be time consuming to build, so I'm wondering if apartments will be considered as an option. I think that's a great comment.
I think if we're looking at apartments, I think we're disconnecting our Hawaiians more. I think we should be looking at the sustainability of Hawaiians and giving them that connection back to the land, at least a strip of grass, for goodness sake. So I know that houses might be a little bit more tedious when you're looking at length and being able to complete such a project. But I think what we should also put in our vision is to also reconnect our Hawaiians back to the land. Is it just what we want is to give them a home, or do we want to build strong and much more well-rounded Hawaiians and future Hawaiians of Hawaii?
Yeah, good thoughts. Kahealani, I saw you had your hand up. Would you like to unmute yourself? Oh, no. I saw a raised hand there.
Cole P has his hand up.
Oh, okay. Cole, I'm calling on you. You can go ahead and unmute yourself and, voice your thoughts.
Aloha. I'm Coleman Peters. I live here in Florida, and I appreciate the comments that are given, especially the thoughts about providing the land. I think answering your question, the recent question regarding homes or apartments, I think that is wholly based on the age of the person. If you got an older person like myself, I don't want to mess around with the home, land, and property. And if other avenues are available, such as an apartment or condo or whatsoever, it'll make it easier for the older kupuna to be able to enjoy what they should have. I've been on the list for 42 years, and I'm waiting for enjoyment. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, I see a few hands raised, Hokulani, Blossom, and Kimo. So let's start with Hokulani. You can go ahead and unmute yourself and voice your thoughts.
Aloha mai kako. Yeah, that was actually my question that I put in the chat. And I just wanted to clarify that I too agree that connection to the AINA is definitely important and should totally be a focus, and that most people would probably prefer that, but some people might not. And then also just to think of it as a kind of short-term solution, maybe for like short-term housing, you know, maybe take people off the list, live in an apartment for a little while more homes are being built to at least help with housing in the interim time. And I know rent is so expensive in so many places. So anyways, just a thought.
Yeah, good, thank you. Okay, next I had on my list, Blossom. Go ahead, you can unmute
Hi,
yourself.
aloha mai kako.
Hello.
Aloha mai kako. Jason, thank you so much for doing this. To Andrew and Julie and the department for actually setting this up. So I just wanted to mention that part of the 20-year vision statement should have some emphasis on when we're talking about homesteading developments, that it not just be single family, but a mixed array of housing opportunities, particularly for our kupuna, who don't necessarily want a single family dwelling, but can manage a small apartment or a duplex where they have a small yard and a place for their family members to come and visit and gather. But I think for the vision in general, that we should be working towards making sure that any beneficiary that comes to the department for a lease wait no longer than 3 years to access a homestead lot of their choice. And I think that's where we're going to require legislative commitment to their fiduciary responsibilities to the department, providing necessary sums for development of our homestead opportunities, which I think needs to have which leads into the process of the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, the Hawaiian Homes Commission, and our beneficiaries to begin that process of advocating for ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Kimo Palakiko, go ahead and unmute yourself if you have a
How's it,
question or
Jared?
comment.
Yes, thank you guys for putting this info together. First, just to get the bookkeeping stuff out of the way, was very difficult to find the website because it's buried inside the website. The Zoom link is all the way down in permit and planning, and then you gotta look at the bottom of the page to find the link. Okay, so I think if you guys are gonna do this and you want more participation, because in Kapolei alone we have over 1,000 homesteaders, and if all we have is 80 people signed on, then obviously we're having a split somewhere where these people are not available to get online because they cannot find the link. Secondly, on your Mentimeter, one of the questions has 6 objectives that was part of the 2002 plan, but you only give choices 1 through 5. So that means the color choices for number 1 and number 1 come out the same, because it's a light blue and a dark green or something like that, that indicate that it's not a taken spot already. So that's something you guys want to look at when you guys are putting your package together, that some of these questions that have 6 components to it, you want a 1 through 6, not a 1 through 5, to classify what you want us to consider most important to least important. But to also reiterate to everyone, I agree totally that there's a fix that needs to be in here, and it's difficult. My papa died on the list, so I took his place in 2010, and now because of my health, I didn't want to wait anymore. His G was Waimanalo, but Waimanalo comes up very rarely. Even when there's a homestead that's given back, for some reason it doesn't come out to the people who are on the original Waimanalo list. See, this association goes back for so many years. When they had lost files, nobody went out to find these Mohana and tell them, hey, you got to re-register. Only when I registered my own name did they say, oh, my dad's address is so old and his records are in a district file. Because in the old days, you had to choose your hapwa. So he chose Waimanalo. Then they changed to an island-wide system. And he wasn't on that list because he was only on Waimanalo. So when he went island-wide, he only went on the island-wide in 1982 when I put in my application when I became of age. So there's a lot of miscommunication and disconnect between older generations and the young ones. And the new ones right now, they're getting out there, they're trying to do what they can, but the problem we're having is the people who make the decision for us, our commissioners and the people in charge at DHHL, have no input on the selection of these entities by the leasees and the waitlisters. Because I'm pretty sure that if the people who choose you to do your job are the ones that can also fire you because you're not doing your job well, you would be doing a much, much better job. That's just how business is run. So we try to be kokua, we try to help out each other, and we try to tolerate. But pretty soon it's getting to the point where Hawaiians no longer can just tolerate and sit back and say, oh, okay, give me what you like, and we'll take it with a gratitude and a bowed head. We have to remember that, for all I know, Jared, I cannot tell by your appearance, but you might be 3/4 Hawaiian, because you can never tell how someone looks on how much Hawaiian they have. Right? You look at the Kamehameha High School graduation yearbook, brothers, that is the rainbow for true. And that's how aloha is in Hawaii. It's just like a rainbow love. No matter who you are, they love you, even if you truly not Hawaiian. But I understand that there's a lot of holding back from old timers and new timers. I really would love to see the waitlist expand to include people of less than 50% blood quantum. If you go back to when our prince first started it, he wanted 1/32 as the blood quantum, or 3%. I mean, going all the way up to 50% is a giant leap. And the only reason I can think of from my American education is that you want to eliminate as big a group as possible and make it as small a group to deal with. So you make the categories that you have to qualify humongous. So imagine if they had made it 100% blood quantum. I only have 7 cousins who are still 100% Hawaiian out of all of my 100+ cousins. So that means only other ones that are on Homestead now would have lost their homestead if they wanted it at 100% instead of 50. People need to recognize that people are going to love different people from now on, and we need to reduce their blood quantum to at least 25 to get on the list, and then maybe half of that to inherit, so that our children's children's children can love whomever they want and still be a Hawaiian homestead owner. Either that or change the system from leasee to fee simple, so that once the family qualifies for it because they proved they were enough Hawaiian, that it stays in the family forever, for all eternity. Thank you, Jared.
Thank you. So I understand the blood quantum issue is running parallel with this process. Any other hands up? I see no hands up. From my team on the line, did we capture all the possible questions in the chat? I'm not seeing too much. I see some just comments.
There's some comments about making sure that commercial properties are allowed to let people succeed and thrive, and Why have agriculture and pastoral lists that had specific district designated been changed to a general list? That might be a question for DHHL.
Okay. And that is a specific question.
Yeah.
So like I was saying, in my earlier part of this vision statement, we're going to spend maybe 10 more minutes, maybe less if there's no more comments. But, the idea is to answer the question, what does success look like in 20 years from now? In 2040, looking back, what does it look like? Looks like, I got a new hand up. Makana Bacon, go
Hi,
ahead and unmute
Jared.
yourself. Hi.
Hi. So for your vision, where we would see Hawaiian homelands, or where our destination is in 20 years, of course, majority of us want to have the wait list gone by then, or at least whittled down to be those who have applied within the last 4 years, as opposed to those who have applied more than 20 years ago. That's, of course, one major vision, I think. Another vision would be so that more beneficiaries are actually in the shared driver's seat like you had in the canoe. Because right now it feels like DHHL is, up high, and beneficiaries, lessees, even those that already have their property, seems like way down low, like maybe at 1%, and DHHL is at like 80% distance. Because even though we have lessees on the land, they're not really, I don't feel that we're actually empowered to be able to continue to thrive as a Hawaiian people. I'm not saying that's DHHL's fault specifically, but part of the vision in 20 years is hopefully more of a community, Hawaiian community, coming together to be able to, like some groups trying to get agriculture going, trying to perpetuate the Hawaiian culture with kalo and the ahupua'a system, and being able to feel like we can move forward with, or have an easier time moving forward with being able to perpetuate these practices, and not be like, oh, you can't do that because it's Hawaiian homelands and that's not what that's for. Well, Hawaiian homelands isn't only for us to live on, as many people have commented, it's for us to be able to perpetuate the culture. It's for us to be able to teach the younger ones, and to keep it going, as well as in the last couple of years, perpetuating the Hawaiian language, which I do not speak at all. As somebody that grew up in the time when Hawaiian, what is that? So I think that's where that vision needs, part of our vision that we're going to do with this planning process needs to be incorporated.
Very good. Thank you. Looks like Blossom, you had your hand up again. Go ahead.
Yeah, I did. One of the things I just wanted to add that, in terms of the vision statement and the destination that we hope to get to, is that we get a wide array of housing opportunities and programs, a commercial and community area for the homestead communities to be able to use and build their own equity and their own economic value in the community. It's the hope that in 20 years, every single homestead community, both existing and new ones, have an area for their community to use for community use, as well as a commercial area that can promote small business opportunities for the homesteaders and other beneficiaries.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, next hand I see up, Scott Abrigo. Go ahead, you can unmute yourself.
Hello, Mike Kako. Thank you, Jared, for putting this on, and the DHHL staff. I think to have healthy and self-sustaining homesteads, we need a healthy and self-sustaining DHHL. And in order to carry on the mission of the trust and put people on the land, it takes a lot of resources. And I think we've seen that through, DHHL's last initiative, which died in the ledge, and that call for help via a gambling bill. And maybe that wasn't the best vehicle, but I think the message was clear that in order for, the department to address the wait list, that they need resources. And so I think back in the original general plan, they had put a target as 30 million, and I think they fell short of that 30 million. And I remember in the PowerPoint for the gambling bill, the estimates was upwards to 200 million a year needed to do a a very effective homesteading program. And so, I would hope that one of the destinations is to make a self-sustainable, healthy DHHL with enough resources to address the homesteading issue that we have. And I know it's a hard problem to solve, but I think it definitely should be a goal. And I think that's something that all homesteaders, including applicants, need to advocate. Similar to what Blossom had said earlier, we need to advocate for those resources on behalf of the department because that would benefit all. So that's my manao.
That's well said. Thank you, Scott. Okay, it's about 7:30. I'm gonna move into the next section. So this is where we've been and goals going forward. But just before we leave the vision statement discussion, I want to say a couple things. Okay, so there's a bunch of questions that guys are putting into the chat, which I'm not going to read out here. A lot of them are very specific, certain areas in Hawaii. So if, I'm inviting Andrew or Julie, if you guys want to respond directly to some of those questions with those individuals, go ahead and do that in the chat. And if it's something you think we should share with the rest of the group, let me know, and then we'll bring it to the rest of the group. The other thing I want to say is, all of this stuff that we just covered, these questions on the Mentimeter are also on our open house in the same format kind of way. So if there's something that comes to you after this meeting in the middle of the night, you can always go to our open house and put comments there on the vision also, and we'll capture that just like we got everything in this discussion. So just wanted to plug the open house again. So with that, we're going to move into the next part of the meeting. I'm going to turn it over to Molokai, one of our planners. And go ahead.
Okay, mahalo, Jared. Okay, aloha, everyone. My name is Molokai Krishak. I'm a planner with SFM International, as Jared mentioned. And so after having that big picture discussion, looking at the vision and where we want to go, this next part is going to look back a bit at where the department has been now in the 100 years since the passing of the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act, and really also the last 18 years since the adoption of the 2002 General Plan. And then we want to provide you folks opportunities to share your manaos on goals and priorities moving forward. What was learned and what can we take with us towards that new vision in 2040. So just to quickly, and a lot of this stuff relates back to the virtual open house, as Jared mentioned. So we're going to be, again, sharing some things briefly, but there's a lot more information on the virtual open house. And we really hope that you guys can all visit it and explore those resources. There's a lot of have pretty great things on there. And this is one of them. Throughout the last 100 years, obviously there's been a number of significant events that have occurred to have shaped the department, the policies DHHL has used to implement the trust and deliver lands to Native Hawaiians, and challenges too. And the online open house, you can explore. We have an interactive timeline where you can look at these significant events and important milestones. Just to get a little bit of context and maybe jog your memory a bit, but and this includes important milestones like the first homestead, the first homesteads, other firsts in terms of awards, and also, the adoption of the general planning system and other developments in the department. Also includes information about key periods of kind of activism and protest in the Native Hawaiian community, which affected the department and the way it functions. And also includes significant lawsuits and acts which brought new land or returned land to the trust, things that I think most of you are familiar with. Another thing that's on the virtual open house, and which we'll go over briefly here, is the 2002 General Plan Evaluation, which was developed by the Department of Hawaiian Homelands and our project team here, with the objective to evaluate the department's performance relative to the last general plan's goals, and really to understand where the department has put their effort and what has been effective in that time frame. And this report card looked at the department's annual reports, relevant plans and policies. We did some stakeholder interviews with staff and some former chairs. We received some feedback from that investigative committee that Melissa mentioned, and also looked at other available information. And in the report card, we use this evaluation system. It's kind of simple, but it's using checks. And so when you look at it, you'll see a check minus would indicate that few, if any, resources were allocated towards meeting that goal in the last 18 years. A check indicates that programs and policies were implemented, but the goal may not have been met. And a check plus, if you see a check plus, that means that programs and policies are implemented and the department feels that it met or exceeded that goal. Really, this is just to provide a snapshot of kind of the evaluation internally by the department, but there will be opportunities for you folks to provide your mana'o and input on this, which I'll share shortly. But just to recap exactly what's included in this evaluation, again, it's the general plan covers these 7 goals. As a comprehensive plan, this was the first one by the department that covered this range of goals. The previous plan, which was adopted in 1976, was primarily land use, and this one, the 2002 plan, contained a wider range of areas which the department functions. So it includes land use planning, residential uses, agricultural and pastoral uses, water resources, land and resource management, economic development, and community building. So how can you provide input on this evaluation? There's a lot of information on there, so we really do invite you to visit the virtual open house and check it out. So the main focus of today's, as I mentioned in the intro of today's meeting, as I mentioned in my intro, is really to look at the goals from the 2002 plan and see which ones still resonate with you and which ones you want to take with you forward. So I know that you folks, I'm sure, have a lot to say in terms of the performance of the goals, and that's completely understood, and we really want to hear that. But there probably isn't enough time in this meeting to hear all of that information, all that mana'o that you folks have, all that experience that you have related to the goals. So we really do invite you to check out the open house, and you can click on the general plan evaluation, and it will take you to a more detailed page, which includes all the vision goals from the 2002 plan, includes our findings, more detailed findings related to those goals, the sources that we used to collect that information, and then that check grade that we had. And on the website, you'll see some icons in the upper left-hand corner where you can provide your thoughts. We want to know what you think. If you hit the thumbs up button, you can let us know whether you agree or not with the assessment, and you can share why or why not in writing. We also want to know which of the goals from the general plan are important, and we'll talk about that in the next section, and which of the goals in the 2002 general plan are still relevant moving forward, which we'll also talk. And then lastly, there'll be another opportunity to talk about in this meeting, but on the open house, you can also share if there's any goals from that last plan which were left out that you think should be included in this update. So with that, before you go to the virtual open house, let's have another Mentimeter session. And this Mentimeter session, as I mentioned, is really looking at which of the goals from the 2002 general plan are important to you and you feel are relevant moving forward. So we're going to return to the Mentimeter. I think some of you already have entered some of your responses, but we're going to run through the slides and show kind of the live results as we go through them.
Okay, so the first question we're going to handle in the Mentimeter, that's going to give us a sense which ones are really important, which ones less important. But the discussion about any goals that are missing from these lists, whatever, climate change, anything like that, we're going to have the kind of a live discussion after the Mentimeter. Yeah, so Molokai is going to walk us through the goals and we'll show you the results from all the polling. And go ahead, Molokai.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that, Jared. Appreciate it. Okay, so which goals from the 2002 general plan are still important and relevant to you folks? Looks like we already have 30 responses on this one, but so the 2002 general plan included the first area was land use, and it looked at the most appropriate uses of land based on the needs and desires of you folks. It also looked at the growth pattern. So trying to look at contiguous growth from the urban and rural centers, like for instance, most of the development since then took place in Kapolei and the Evamoku on Oahu, which is kind of an urban growth center. And then the last one is looking at livable and sustainable communities, and really looking at that last part with access to amenities that can serve the needs of the residents. So let's see what folks say. If you guys want to keep answering, or if you want to return back to this slide, it looks like all of these are important. All these are important, looks like, to bring forward, but especially looking at the appropriate uses to meet the needs and desires of the population, and livable and sustainable communities to provide space. So I'm not seeing any new responses popping up here.
And I guess maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Molokai, but the way to read that kind of shaded area in the back, oh yeah, so those are where the responses were. Okay, so if he hovers the mouse over it, you can see we had 10 responses in the middle, 8 really important, 3 less important. So that's what that wavy thing in the background is trying to tell us. But these looks like really important issues.
So it looks like here you
general.
can see this is a really important one.
Yeah,
most people agree that this is one of the most important.
We got about 32 responses.
And that aligns with what we heard with you folks in terms of the vision, I think. Okay,
next one.
Let's go to the next one. So residential uses. This is one that had a lot more goals related to it. The big one is increasing the number of residential homesteads awarded each year, and that's something we heard from you folks just now in the vision. So providing a mix of housing opportunities, so a mix of types of housing to meet the different needs and desires of various people. And providing other services along with residential homesteads, so financing other housing opportunities, especially for those in need, and that's kind of what the NAHASDA funding focuses on. You might be familiar with. Developing integrated communities, so that reflect a diverse socioeconomic profile. So that goes along with providing more opportunities to everyone. Ensuring existing homestead neighborhoods are maintained and attractive, and this is for the older homesteads, but also the newer homesteads as well, finding those spaces that can be healthy spaces for everyone, and then increasing the potential to qualify for house financing. So there's been some programs related to that. Let's see here. These ones are all really important. Again, we can see a lot of folks are going up on this to 5 on all of these. So it seems like these, regardless of the performance of the last plan, it seems like a lot of these goals are still really important to folks. Okay, let's see the next one. So agriculture and pastoral uses. One of the goals was to increase the number of agriculture and pastoral use leases on each year. I saw some questions in the chat box that earlier. Providing infrastructure really to use those agriculture and pastoral lands was one of the goals. And providing commercial leasing opportunities, that was one of the comments we just heard actually. And then conserving the most productive agricultural lands for intensive agriculture and pastoral use. Those are goals. And see what's important moving forward. So we got some in the 4, close to the 4. Seems like the residential seem to be really important to a lot of guys. And this is also we're seeing on the high end here in the 4s. Pretty consistent. And we're seeing a lot of people, it seems like a lot of people have made it through at least about half. So keep it coming. And even if I move on past the slide, we're going to save all this information. It's all going to be useful for the planning process. So please, please answer the questions, even if they're not on screen, if we need to catch up. Water resources was another topic area in the general plan and something that was emphasized with the water resource management plan by the department. The department has been looking to provide quality water in cost-effective manner, ensure availability of sufficient water. So making sure that there's water on the Hawaiian homelands for the various uses. And then exercising aggressively, exercising to protect the rights that are, in the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act. Let's see what we got. This one is a really important one, and that makes sense. Water is the most important thing that you need for land to thrive. So I'm seeing here that pretty much everybody is in agreement of these are still important. Okay. Land and resource management. There's only one goal, one sub-goal related to this, which is to be responsible long-term stewards of the trust lands and natural, historic, community resources located on these lands. There's not a lot of staff currently allocated towards this, but so let's see what folks think in terms of priority here. And this is a really important one. So this is something that we might be addressing in the upcoming plan in terms of policies. It definitely will be, actually. Okay. Few more here. Economic development. This is something we heard again in the vision discussion. And this, I think, relates in 2 ways, right? Economic development for the trust and department to be self-sufficient, which is this first one, financial support towards fulfilling the trust mission, greater financial support, and then also opportunities for beneficiaries within their homesteads or within their communities. And it seems like everything's important. Everything's important. So I'm looking forward to see if anything's missing in the broader discussion after we get through this last slide. So healthy communities. So empowering homestead associations to manage their communities. The last plan brought with it the planning system. So the 2002 general plan coincided with the passing of the 2002 planning system, which included the regional plans. And I think regional plans look to do this, to empower the homesteads, not just the homestead associations, but to come up with priority projects, manage, and then we also have established self-sufficient, healthy communities, which was something that I heard a lot of those words during the visioning discussion and in the chat. And yeah, we see self-sufficient is definitely really important, and empowering homestead associations seems to be important as well. Like everything else, we're seeing some kind of in the 4 range, and then we'll see up here. So like I said, you can keep answering those questions if you haven't yet in Mentimeter, but we're gonna go back to our presentation and go back to having conversation with everyone about which from that it seems like everything is pretty important. We got some varying degrees of important to very important on a lot of them. But we want to hear from you. And I see some hands up already. If you have questions, we'll take those first, but then we want to have a discussion about if anything is missing from the 2002 plan that you want to bring with us towards that vision for 2040. And I'm going to pass it back to Jared to facilitate this.
Yeah, thanks, Molokai. So the order I got right now, Kimo, Makana, then Kopi. So Kimo Palakiko, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, thanks, Jared. I appreciate it. So Jared, so I'm clear. When they displayed the initial question and it had a check mark minus, check mark plus, that was what you folks evaluated, the group, the commission, DHHL, and the other potential guys that gave input to give it its report card. So that's what that report card is, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So, but when you guys use that same
Our
check
team.
mark for us to determine what is important, and you show it as also check plus, check plus, check plus, because it's highly important, wouldn't that kind of confuse your information that people may mistake it as, oh, they got that we as our input is saying that they passed on it, as opposed to this is what we consider important?
Maybe
on the line as you do a report, the first report will say, this is our internal report card, this is check plus system, and then this is what the people who we had input from said should be continued on with the policy or the vision, and then it's still the same check plus system. They may just think that DHHL and HHC did a fantastic job, and because they're all check plus or check.
Okay, just to clarify, our report card, like the check plus, check minus, is not an indication of how important that goal is to the department. That was our essentially self-grading how the department is performing in achieving that goal. So a little bit different from what we were asking in the Menti. The Menti is how important are these goals to carry forward? Very important or less important? So we want to confirm these goals.
I understand that, but anybody who reads it from just its surface view, like, you know, they print them in a newspaper and somebody just looking through it, oh, look, all check pluses, oh, it must be okay. Flip over to the next page. Is there a way you guys can make it something else so that, you know, people will understand that one represents their own internal report card and one represents how important it still is to current DCs and waitlisters? Another symbol other than a check plus and check minus, so there's no confusion between the two.
That's something I get what you're saying now. That's pretty good. Maybe it's something we got to clarify on our open house. But basically, this is another plug for the open house. If you want to know why something got a check plus, a check, or a check minus, we didn't have enough time in this meeting to get into that level of detail. So you got to go to the open house and you can see why we graded a goal the way we did. So I would encourage everyone to go see that. And we're not saying we want you guys to agree or disagree. We want your opinions on those too, you know, because we're all looking at it from different angles here. So we encouraging everybody, give us your opinions there. Yeah, go ahead.
So we're asking them to grade.
Truly add is we need more resources. You know, I don't think gaming is going to be the way to get it, but this, you know, when I look at they say, oh, based on the 1978 CONCON's agreement of what we should have gotten in DHHL with increases for inflation, there's got to be way more money they're getting from us than we getting from them, meaning the state of Hawaii. You know, as far as the land swaps and stuff. Like I live at Kaulukaha'i, we got a brand new intermediate school that was given, the land was given to set aside for the school from DHHL lands, but then a land swap was done for the Croc Center right next to it, and that was given to the Croc Center Salvation Army fee simple, and they bought it. But yet Hawaiians are not allowed to get some kind of discounts to go use the facilities. We still got to pay like everybody else the same rate. And the Hawaiians don't can afford to go pay $99 a month just to go swimming in a pool.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you,
gonna
Ted.
move. Let's see. Makana was next. Go ahead.
Thank you. So my comment had to do with the last two slides with regards to the economic development and community uses. I can understand what Kimo is saying with regards to things that are built on Hawaiian homelands that's given to a non-beneficiary for use, whether it be commercial, nonprofit, whatever, but the benefit is not, no part of that benefit is really coming back to either the community that it's that facility is placed in, or to the Hawaiian Homelands Trust to help fund, as they were mentioning earlier, for DHHL to be able to fund projects that the beneficiaries are needing, wanting, financing needed for homes and whatnot. So the economic development portion, there is, I'm from Anahola, there is a marketplace here. People who are in there are paying rent for their space, which personally I believe if you want something to, if you want someone to take care of something, they got to put some skin in the game. So having some form of a rent, I'm not saying like outrageous rent, but some form of monetary from that business is understandable. But where is the money that business is putting in? Where is that then being used for the community at large? The rent that comes in, it's not going back to where it's supposed to go. So whether that money goes to DHHL to then disseminate among, somehow use that for funding for other projects that are going on, or whether it goes back into the community that the money is coming from, which I believe it should go back into the community for what it's supposed to be for, whether that money gets applied towards reducing the amount of money we pay for water, reducing the amount of money we pay for electricity, going towards being able to train people to be able to then develop more in a job skill, trade skill, being able to promote other people to be able to start a business. Whatever that looks like, I think needs to somehow be incorporated into the vision of getting us through the next 20 years. If DHHL is not getting the kind of funding and support they need, like I don't agree with a casino, but that keeps coming up every 5, 10, 20 years. Let's build a casino. Not really where I think we should go. But if DHHL needs help funding some of these projects in our communities, then this money needs to be able to get back to these communities, whatever island the funding is coming from with these economic building. You know what I mean? It's whatever these commercials, whether it's a beneficiary or non-beneficiary, there needs to be some way that the monies or funds go back into the community. And that's where I think what we are missing with regards to economic development and community sustainability. That's my on that.
Thank you. I think that's an excellent comment. Let's see. I got Cole P and then Bernadette Vea.
Hello, and I want to tell Molokai thanks for his information regarding the planning and goals for the future, and also for Makana for her remarks. I want to take it back. We've got this vision, so to speak, and I like the graph that you used, Jared, regarding the canoe and pretty much taking those steps higher. My concern or vision is what happens before that canoe is rising, what happens to the canoe prior to that, and the vision that I had 42 years ago. And I've been sitting on this list as number 7 on the pastoral list on Maui for 42 years. I'm still worried about that vision way back then. And now I got to worry about a vision for the next 20 years. So where does that put me? Mahalo.
Good thoughts. Okay, thank you for that, Cole. Bernadette, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Report cards, maybe the Hawaiian people should vote for you guys. I mean, we should be grading you guys on how the system is run so far. It doesn't seem that it's getting anywhere. I mean, look at him. He's been on the list for 42 years. I thought I was bad with 20. You know, my auntie died on the list. Homes are getting expensive. Our children are running away from our own home because they can't afford a house in Hawaii anymore. The mainlanders are coming in. We have the safe haven now with COVID. Homes around me on the west side of Kauai is going for over $1 million. They're talking about a big project right up the street from me, 300 homes. I've got the red letter on it, and that was all I heard on the project. I mean, 42 years to be on one list is kind of ridiculous for me. I mean, somebody's not doing their job. And why is this list 26,000 people are on the list? You have 200,000 acres of land. What is the hole up? I mean, yeah, you guys know more money. I mean, like she said, we all know like the casino, but if we got to fund this project somehow, we need to generate money. I mean, like I said, I have 50% Hawaiian. Only how we can pull the 100% is marrying within our own families. There's not much Hawaiians left.
Just way back.
I mean, you know, it's kind of sad where we are right now that, you know, the mainlanders are coming. They're coming. They're buying every piece of home they can find here. And what's happening to our kids? They're running away because they can't afford to live here. That's all I get to say.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Okay, I had Scott and then Commissioner Neves. Go ahead, Scott.
Hello, Jared. I guess my comments is related to are any goals missing, and I think you know, after reviewing the general plan, the current general plan, I think we got to be more specific in the goals and have more specific outcomes, so we can track and track the progress of the goals and figure out how to do measurables. Yeah, how do we measure success of the department or of the beneficiaries, you know, achieving these goals? And, you know, I think back to, you know, a couple administrations ago when they had a target of 5,000 residential homes, and that spawned, you know, multiple developments. But just having that target of 5,000, you know, really kind of pushed the department towards, you know, that development. But what I like to see in the new general plan is that kind of specific goal setting and specific target, creating specific measurables. And then at the end, when we're back, you know, reevaluating the general plan and the success of the department on its general plan and achieving its goals, I think it will be a lot easier to rate, because we know what the targets are and we can kind of see, you know, what the progress have been. And so that's kind of my motto in terms of what's missing and what I like to see in the new general plan kind of moving forward. Mahalo.
Yeah, thank you, Scott, for bringing that up. I would just reiterate that having the evaluation and those measurables are required to be put into the general plan per the Hawaii administrative rules for the minimum requirements for the general plan. So thank you for calling that out. Okay, Commissioner Neves, go ahead.
Yes, first I'd like to mahalo everybody for being on the call. This is, you know, it's nice to see so many people, so many voices, even though I haven't met a lot of you. I was on the list for 37 years. I'm a beneficiary now. I live in Anahola in the Bayview district. I've been on the commission for about a year and a half. A lot of the comments that are made are basically the same questions and comments I had when I first started the commission. That's why I'm on the commission. I think it's important that we look to beneficiaries to get on the commission. All you have to do is apply. You apply, you get a group of folks to back you up, You talk to some of the associations. I know someone said maybe we should be voting for commissioners. I'm going to for my next term. The governor's asked me to do a next term to 2025, and I go to the Hawaiian Affairs Committee meeting next week on the 9th for my and you can put in your information or support or not support. If you don't know who I am, you can go back and look through all of the past association, or not association, but commission meetings. I've been public service for over 30 years. So, and I love doing public service. This is even more important because I'm Native Hawaiian. So everything that everybody said is important. It's important to have a choice. It's not our fault that we're in this situation. The state has an obligation to provide the funding. Our land's taken away. We only have 200,000 acres. Not all that land is buildable. Here in Kauai, we've done some things that need to be fixed. I'm an advocate for fix it. Don't wait. Don't give me a little, couple bucks here to get this started. Then I got to wait 5 years to develop it. That doesn't do me any good. So I'm a strong advocate for what everyone's saying. It's important that we advocate. There's only 9 of us to advocate to the state to say we need money. But when you get the 27,000 people that are on the list that send something into the ledge and say, when we're doing budgets, we need this money, it's really important. I'm glad to see there's so many people, and I've been to several of the islands and met with a lot of the groups. And we just met, we have Kuleana lands going out here. I just want to get people on the land. We'll figure out what to do with it after we get people on the land. I don't want to see any more kapunas dying on the list. If the commission has to come up with something to decide we need to move the Kuleana up as a priority, that may be something we have to do. I was an advocate for the casino because what are we going to do? Wait another 20, 40 years? We can't. We have to take it on our own through and push the department to go and see if we could get $30 million was minimum. Okay, I know if that was presented properly, that I know there was social issues people were concerned about. How do you fix that? Money fixes social issues. Why is Hawaii and Utah the only 2 states that don't have some type of gambling casinos? Don't you think these other states are making big money? So we would not only support our mission, but the taxes would support the state. They're $1.5 billion in the hole. It's going to take years to get out of that. Where are we going to end up? Are we somewhere on that pecking order to get the money we need? I don't think so. We're going to be screaming. This commission is going to be screaming. And I think we already put it out there and said, look, here it is. Now everybody knows the real. We can't wait another 40 years. I don't want no more kapunas dying on the list. So, and this is important. And I tell all the beneficiaries when I go to each one of these meetings, we talk about developments. You need to get involved. This is your community. Don't let someone say, this is how we're going to do it. Ole, that is our community. We have to do it. So that's where I stand. And it's important to have that passion and continue to push to make sure all this vision, all this stuff, we don't have to go back and say, oh, we didn't do this, we didn't do that. No, but we fought for it. We stuck it out. So that's where I'm at. I just want to let everybody know that, some people think that the commission, we know the governor, this and that. That's just the process. The rules are he has to say, okay, I'm going to nominate this person. Then it goes through the Hawaiian Affairs. After Hawaiian Affairs, you either make it or you don't. And if the last time Chairman Ila went through, he had some issues. And then from there, you go to the Senate. It's not a rubber stamp. It's not a rubber stamp. And I tell you, I just started taro farming to try to help my community. I deliver vegetables to my community. I take care of our community, our small community here, and not a whole lot. But that's part of when we talk about unity. Take care of the guy down the street. I go cut lawns every week down the street to take care of the kaputas down the street. I work a taro farm, my wife and I, 1.5 acres. What's going to happen with that taro farm? That taro's going to community. That's community. Take care of each other. Malama aina, malama keiki, malama kaputa. So I want to get off my box, but this is important. This is very important that we stay involved all the way to the end. And if we don't like something, we change it. Because I'm on the commission to make change and move. We gotta move. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Neves. Okay, I had Lohalani and then Blossom.
Thank you. Thank you, Dennis. So, well, first of all, thank you, Jared, and everybody for putting this together, because it is a time for us to talk. So my idea of a goal for generating revenue is changing the word mercantile in the amended act, because if we can amend that, the people itself, as beneficiaries, could do the businesses and share the revenue. We need to go back to the original act where our prince wanted us to thrive financially too. We don't have that opportunity. When we talk mercantile, that is on the level of the administration only for funding, but then that was supposed to also be put for us, the people, so that we could generate revenues and give it back. So what I'm talking about is malls, having our own bank. You know, all these things can be done. That's not impossible. But the revenues that we would get, we could give back to the administration. So I ran a small little food trailer, and my 10% of whatever I got was put back into the community. So I think we can do that if we work together as far as that is concerned. And it's not impossible. We've got a lot of business owners within the beneficiaries. So, you know, why not change that or amend it so that we can help the administration and our commissioners to thrive? I mean, that's just an idea. So I wanted to put it out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Good comments. Okay, Blossom, go ahead. You still with us?
Am I unmuted? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, sorry about that, Jared. Mahalo. Okay, so one of the goals I think that I'm missing is a more, you know, and I'm getting kind of tired using this word, but a more robust process for the department to be able to generate enough revenue to make them self-sufficient. The issue and challenge is that, you know, I've been advocating on behalf of beneficiaries for over 30 years. And I can tell you that some of the key challenges that our beneficiaries face is not so much that the department isn't doing what they're supposed to do. It's that they're not getting sufficient funding in order to do it. Okay. So what we have here is we have a serious lack of support from the state of Hawaii in providing sufficient sums for the department to be able to develop their homestead lots the way they should. In this current budget right now, the Department of Fine Homeland submitted to the governor's office a capital improvement project budget that would provide for over 1,100 lots in the next 5 years. Okay. Also do major repairs in Papakolea, Maku'u, Ka'u water systems, the dams in Kauai. Okay. The other thing is that the long-term plans get stymied by the short-term leadership because it's by appointment only. Okay. So if people think that 8 years is enough time to get stuff off the ground, it's not. And every time there's a new administration, agendas change and priorities change. The state of Hawaii controls all of the funds that the department gets, even in their special funds. I don't know if any of you guys know this, but all of the special funds that the department has that they fund with their with our revenue from our land base, okay, needs the approval of the governor in order for them to get a disbursement out of those funds. Currently, because of the pandemic, the state legislature is planning on taking over $60 million away from the Department of Fine Homeland, with no guarantee that that money is going to come back. $60 million builds lots. $60 million builds communities, okay? And the department consistently is forced to bear the pressure from the legislature to build homestead lots, but the legislature fails to provide the funding they need in order to do that. Okay, so when we're talking about long-term goals, we seriously need to get behind the department and start to work on a strategy that provides them with the opportunity to acquire the necessary funds to be able to do the work that needs to be done on our behalf. And I want to see that long-term goal be put on this list.
Very good. Any others? Let's see, it's 8:11 on my clock. We have until 8:30. This might be a good time for us to just try and get through the wrap up and next steps. There's only a couple more slides left in our presentation. Looks like we're okay to do that. Okay, I think I'm turning it back over to Melissa. No.
Either way, Jared, you can take us home or I can.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. All right, let me see here. So next slide, please, Molokai. Okay, so just a reminder, like Jared said at the beginning of this meeting, this is one of two parts of the first round of beneficiary engagement. And so like we've posted in the chat, this is the first of 3 meetings where this same content will be presented. There are also meetings on March 8th and March 9th that will present this same content. But then we're going to come back in a month and we're going to do part 2. And so these meetings have covered the vision and the general goals of the 2002 plan. The next 3 meetings are going to cover the connecting beneficiaries and land. So we're going to start talking about land uses and what you'd like to see on Hawaiian homelands and getting into more of those issues. So we'll also report back on what we heard on the first round of meetings about the vision. We'll put together some language for a vision and see how it resonates with everybody. And we really want to hear from you really about land use and how different types of land use benefit the beneficiaries. And so please save the date, try to come to one of these next round of meetings in April as well. You're always welcome at all of them, but just so you know that the next ones in March are going to cover the same content. So you might want to just try to come back in a month. We're also going to be sending recordings of these to the different public access TV stations across the state. So hopefully more people will see it and they'll come to the online open house. And please help spread the word to your neighbors also. Next slide. So once again, here's the link to the online open house. And could somebody once again post it in the chat so it's easier to get to? And I hope that you all take a chance to visit this because it's a really neat tool and there's a lot of opportunity to explore everything we've showed you today in more detail and to provide comments. Okay, next slide. And if you have any burning questions and you want to contact us directly, here's how to do that. So as we mentioned before, Andrew Choi is the lead for this at DHHL. And here's his contact information. And then my contact information is below. And feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to hear your thoughts and ideas for the planning process. And just so you know, everything that we're hearing, here, whether it's here spoken or in the chat or on the online open house or via email, it's all being recorded and will be part of this process. So don't feel limited by one way or another. Do I see a hand up? Julie, did you want to say something? Go ahead.
I just wanted to get clarification. So on the open house site, they will be given an opportunity to look at those grades, the check, minus check, and assign what they think the grade should be. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the open house has a way that they can look at the grades, and then they can, for each one, they can select agree, disagree, basically strongly agree, and then you can comment on why. So if you disagree, you can say why. And actually, you'll be able to see other people's answers as well. So you can kind of give a thumbs up or thumbs down if you agree with their answers.
Okay. So that's something we didn't do at the meeting tonight, but they can really get into it on the open house site.
I can show you right now if you'd like, but actually I think Molokai needs to pull it up. Molokai, could you click on the open house and share your screen?
I just want to make a pitch for it because 2 hours is not a long time, especially when you have 80 people in a meeting trying to provide input. So
absolutely,
really, this is the vehicle of at your leisure. When you're in your time and space that you feel good, you can look at this information and really get into providing input.
Yeah, so Molokai, if you could scroll down a little bit, so you can see here that some of these same presentations that we gave tonight are on the website, and you'll be able to hear them with voiceovers. So it'll be a little more awkward recorded than it is in live, but
that means that each individual slide has an audio recording. So when you advance the slide, it just automatically plays the audio for that slide. Yeah.
Yep, and you can see this really cool timeline that Molokai and Matt created that shows the highlighted events from DHHL's 100-year history. And you can keep scrolling down. You can see the link to the 2002 general plan, and then the 2002 general plan evaluation is what we've been talking about. So could you click on that? There we go. So you can see here that it has links to the different topics individually. So if you wanted to see how we graded the land use planning topic, you'd click on that and you'd see this is our detailed report card assessment. So it gives more backup on what sources we looked at and the justification for that grade. And again, you don't have to agree with it. You could disagree. So you can indicate by clicking on those icons if you agree, if you're neutral, strongly disagree, whatever you feel, and you can submit your comment. We'll see what happens when Molokai, why don't you okay, never mind. But if you submit a comment, it'll show up as a little post-it note. So, and then there's other questions here. So are there any goals missing? What are most important? So you can see it's basically the same kind of questions that we went through with you tonight. And so this is something that's available to anyone, and this open house will be up for about 2 months. So, and we'll be adding to it when we do the next round of meetings. We'll be adding more topics for the land use. And here's a section on the vision, which has the same questions that we explored tonight. And you can add more thoughts to that if you'd like. So in 20 years, beneficiaries will be, you can put your thoughts. And so you can see here that you'll be asked to put your name and your email in, but if you register first, then you won't have to do that every time. So Molokai, could you just show us where that register button is at the top right? There we go. Okay, so at the very top right, there's a little tiny button that says register, and you can create an account. And it's free, and it just asks you for some information, and that way you won't have to enter your name and email every time you add a comment.
And we'll keep that confidential.
Yes, absolutely. So, and then below at the bottom is the links to the, can you go up just a little bit? There's an open-ended comment form, and there's also the links to the upcoming meetings and the dates. We'll be adding the April meeting links shortly. So
I just want to say, this is a major opportunity for us as beneficiaries, or even, I work for the department, so as staff, but this sets a direction for the next 20 years. I mean, this is the easiest way to pivot, as the word is now, pivot the department into setting a new direction. This document, the general plan, and your input in the general plan will really help to make that paradigm shift that we need to make. So this is important to provide your thoughts and your insights in at this open house site. So we have that we need you to see your input so that we can justify moving in this kind of new direction that we need to move in. The kind of input that you folks provided tonight was very good. Anyway, I just want to make a pitch. This is such an important project, and it's going to be setting the direction for a long time. We only get to do this every 20 years, and so we have arrived at it. So now's the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
All right, I'm done, Jared. So go ahead and close us out. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, mahalo everybody. This has been a great meeting. I feel like we got really good input, and thank you everybody for your time, spending 2 hours with us. This is just the beginning. Like I said, the first meeting. Hopefully we'll continue this discussion until we get to the general plan update. Okay, good night.
All right, thanks, folks.
Yeah, mahalo.
Aloha.
Well, mahalo.
Mahalo, everyone. And thank you for all the participation in the chat. We're saving all this information that you shared. So mahalo.
Hey guys, can you put Melissa's information back on? Because you guys clicked off if I could copy them down.
Can.
Thank you.
Mahalo.
Thank you for coming, everybody.
Thank you guys, and please understand, I hope nobody got hurt feelings, but it's just a very passionate subject for all of us.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, totally understand.
Oh, well, thank you for taking the time to meet with us tonight. We appreciate your time.
SSFM. All right, mahalo, guys. Thank you, everybody. I got it. Mahalos.
Good night.
Mahalo.
You guys did a good job tonight. Good meeting. Thank you.
Thanks,
Nice.
Julie.
Yeah, you did a good job. No.
Okay.
Okay. Talk to you guys later.
Night.
Night.
Night. Good job, everyone.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks.
This one's always the hardest.
Okay.
So I will be in touch with you folks, and have a good night.
All right.
All right.
We'll talk with you soon, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew.
Good night.
Okay.
Take care.
Good night.
Hello.
Yeah, we're gonna officially close the Zoom then. So for all you guys that are still on, you're gonna get kicked out. Us too. Okay, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Hey.